Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are here a almost week early for the next chapter because of holidays and New Year's and stuff. The chapter I don't believe officially releases until next week. However, with leaks and printing and the production, we have the basically the rough outline of the chapter now. So there may be still changes. Typically, the translation we get here doesn't match up, as I will go into in a minute, but it's a close enough representation of what is actually happening in this chapter, and we do get to see everything. So always good, just getting a week early. Why not? But it means we won't have a video next week because this is this chapter. So swings and roundabouts. Nevertheless, I am looking forward to get into this chapter, the start of 2025, even though this is the end of 2024. We'll just bundle it all together because what a lovely chapter we have here. So, without further ado, chapter 1135, Camaraderie Cups, or Friendship Cups. So, quite a nice title. We are continuing with the Yamato cover story, and we'd had a lovely colour spread last week to honour the Frankie voice actor leaving. So before that, it was Toma being captured, and Toma has now gotten a lot stronger since the Wano arc, and she is just able to break out of this hold she was in against Hold'em immediately. So nice to see a bit of a representation of strength. But we are carrying on, and last we had left off, we had discovered Lilith bringing a Vegapunk clone to Elbaf. A body that was 20 years younger, who was a clone Vegapunk would send out to the other islands, so the world government wasn't going to get suspicious of him leaving so often. We had the sort of view and reveal of the Walrus School, where the kids are based and are learning, and the children here on Elbaf have a different outlook on life now. Things are peaceful. There is a whole different time. They are not being trained as the warriors of Elbaf anymore. The new generation, King Harold wanted something different. He wanted people to trade and to not wage war. So a bit of a rebrand, catch up with current times. But we found all this information out through the biology teacher, who is Ripley. So this quintessential old generation Viking shield maiden, she is still a follower of the old ways. She is a generation of warriors, but obviously the newer generation she's now teaching are not being taught that way. They are being trained in, friendship, trades. They're being taught these things from the O'Haran books, which we see in the Owl Library. So obviously Robin, Chopper, and a few others, Lilith, go with Saul, and they go into the Owl Library, where Robin's book immediately gigantifies in her hand. And we didn't know at the time what that was from, but seemingly in this space, any book that entered would gigantify so that giants could read it. So we got to see that, which was pretty cool. We saw Loki having a conversation. Now, this was the translation thing. At the time, it was translated as like Moser, but in the updated sort of Shonen Viz translation, the character is now referred to as Shaggy. So Loki and Shaggy have been sort of forming this friendship over that Dendemushi, and seemingly has had a traumatic event that Loki has been coaching them through, and is like, if I do get out of here, I'd back you up, I'd have massacred everyone. So seemingly very interesting. And then obviously we ended at the monumental reveal of two presumably holy knights entering the castle near the western village. A black lightning summoning circle, as we've seen before, and alternate version Shanks and a woman reappeared from the lightning in the summoning circle. So who knows what's going to happen at this point, but nevertheless, I am ready to get into this chapter. That was a long recap. So we pick up back in the Owl Library, and it is just Chopper and Bonnie trying to work out what these books are even saying. Like, it's so hard to make out because the writing is now so big. And Saul explains that the owl, his name is Biblo, is actually a centuries-old being who is like the sort of head librarian. And what he is doing is gigantifying the books. So he has, what Vegapunk reveals is the Iku Iku no Mi. He has the ability to gigantify non-living like matter or objects. So anything that enters his territory is gigantified. Now, I'm assuming this is the awakened version of this fruit. It'll be a paramecia, and I'm sure it is anything he touches becomes gigantified. And he has lived for centuries. Saul tells us he is old. That is the reason he is the custodian of this place. So no doubt that this is the awakened version. He can just, within a space around him, gigantify those objects he wishes. So he sits among the branches and he actually talks, and we find out that, news comes, fishermen have come before and have visited, bringing their papers, their books, and have gigantified them here as well. So Vegapunk is like, this ability is perfect for someone in the kingdom of giants. So nice little nod from Oda, saying, look what we can do. But as Robin and Saul are discussing, they seem to be having a wonderful time, feeling nostalgic. Chopper's getting excited to read all these medical books, and they say, we don't have a lot, but we do have some here. These books have obviously been made bigger, but they can't be shrunk down in this space because he's obviously making everything here giant. So pretty cool. But we jump back over to where everyone else is, where they met Ripley and the kids in the Walrus School, and Luffy's having a whale of a time on a big massive giant swing. These kids are terrified. Like, Luffy is swinging this swing and the kids are traumatized, and he's like, this is the best. Nami gives him a swift beating. Usopp catches some stray hands as well, even like I was trying to stop Luffy, but all this fun, and the kids run over to Gerd for some comfort, and because they're just scared of Luffy and these evil ways he's doing. And Sanji's like surprised. He's like, Luffy, just leave it. We gotta. These kids have been raised on love and kindness. They have different values to the warriors of Elbaf that we know of. And as Sanji looks over, we get the sort of universal trait, as he calls it, because a child pulls the same face that Momo did when he would get comforted as a child by Robin and Nami. So this universal brat behaviour, as Sanji calls it, which is funny. So we can see Luffy is a bit disappointed with sort of the new ways of the giants. It's a bit of a letdown. So Usopp explains, it's not actually a bad thing. A peaceful Elbaf is actually really good, but it isn't peaceful for long as somebody comes to do a surprise attack against Luffy. Charging in, sword in hand, Colin decides to take a mad swing, surprise attack at Luffy, and Luffy doesn't move, at least it doesn't show he moves, and the sword strikes and just breaks in half from just like Luffy, so already nuts, and he jumps up and just decides to do a gear third elephant gun at this child. Luckily, Colin jumps out the way, and Usopp's like, "What are you doing? You're overdoing it, like using a gear third attack." And he's like, "Well, I didn't even hit him anyway. Like he got out the way. Like it's fine. Like there's no problem here." Anyway, but we see Luffy's like, "It's so nice to see that not everyone around here is spineless. You know, I like this kid." We can see all the kids are calling him a delinquent. He's like the troublemaker of the class. So Colin is definitely of the old, or being raised as an old generation. He loves the pirates and their ways. We've seen him with Shanks. So he's already enamored by Luffy, you know, an emperor of the sea. And we find out that Ripley is Colin's mum. So she scolds him. She's like, "Solid first strike, but don't cause a scene." So she's like praising him and scolding him. But we find that Ripley is his mum, and we didn't see it at the time. Back 3 chapters ago, when Matto handed Colin the basket and said, "Ripley's favourite treats from there, oh, and also your dad's as well." Colin takes it, he hands the basket to Ripley, his mum, and he explained to the Straw Hat that his father is also a human. So not only is his mum a giant, his dad is a human who used to be a pirate and didn't fear anyone. So was the silhouette figure we saw roaming around Colin's dad, a famous pirate from back when, who is still living here? Because back in the chapter, when they handed the basket over, the connotation was his dad is also here too. So she said Ripley. The connection is Ripley is his mum. Didn't say his father's name. Just said, "Oh, your father," because maybe amongst them, you know, he is just a human as much as he doesn't fear the giants. Because as Ripley explains, they are husband and wife, but not in an official way. She said, like, you know, he is much younger than me because he's obviously human, and our marriage is more informal because of that age gap. But weird because he doesn't want to be like the first to grow old, so it's just like an unofficial husband and wife situation, and obviously they have a child together. So it's going to be very interesting to see who this pirate is. Who is the person who has remained at Elbaf and is Colin's dad? It's going to be someone, because we're getting a big sort of build up to it now. But after that reveal, Luffy goes to the Owl Library to check on everyone else and is like walking around, comes to visit the library, and Robin, Chopper, Lilith and Bonnie all request to stay a little longer, and that Luffy and the others can just go and enjoy the party. We'll catch up, because even Saul explains, look, those guys, they party for 3 days, so we've got plenty of time. We're just enjoying this moment for now. And Luffy's like, yeah, all good, we'll go on ahead, guys, no worries, you know, I'm starving anyway. And I believe Frankie is going to stay, because he explains that, you know, actually he wants to do some research on the Adam tree, specifically the one here, because it is known like far more than others. And even Saul agrees. He's like, yeah, this one by far is like the most recognisable, the one that is completely off the chart in comparison to the other Adam trees. So if you want to stay here and research, you're more than welcome to. So they all seem ready, but before they leave, Gerd has just a quick request, and it is the sort of donning or handing over of Viking style clothing for Brooke, Frankie, Robin, and Jimbei. So we have the whole Straw Hat lineup now in Viking attire, and we find that Gerd enjoys making human clothes, not in a weird way like Rode was doing. She's like, I just enjoy making them for fun, I swear, nothing weird, but she's like, they look so adorable. So she's so happy with herself, and they all seem very cozy in their new sort of giant Elbaf attire, but it's great. It is really nice to see, and they are whisked off in the mist ship, ready to go and celebrate with everyone. But we have a brief interlude at Aust Castle, near the western village that we'd seen where the lightning struck, and it is the guard. There were giants stood guard sort of by this castle, obviously, and they've caught the people who have been in the intruders, the woman and Shanks 2.0, and the woman asks for the whereabouts of Loki, and she's like, where can we find the one they call Loki? And the two giants are like, whoa, hold up, like, we're on guard here, are you a part of the Straw Hat crew? Because, what business did you have here? Like, how did you even get here? And then they're like, wait, you're looking for Loki? Right, he's the shame of Elbaf, like, he's a criminal, like, he just exudes evil, and he will manipulate you in some way to get him to be free, so we can't willingly let you go and see him or even tell you his whereabouts. And what we see is the woman's doing the talking, and she does this like attack. She like throws something out, or some beams fire out from her. It hits one of the giants, and he goes, wait, is this a kind of joke? Like, what even was that? And then instantaneously he is writhing on the floor in agony. He is in excruciating pain, and he's like begging, like, make it stop, it hurts. So she means business, and she's like, I want you to understand that wasn't a question, it was an order. I wasn't asking, I'm ordering you. Tell me where he is. So, Holy Knights, Loki, fantastic. We see where things are going. But we leave it there. We don't see if this dude dies or if she undoes it or what happens here. We jump back to the main sort of area of the Western Village where everyone is now celebrating, Luffy and Usopp having a wonderful time. And Dory and Broggy, Oimo, Kashi, and Hiruden all want to thank Luffy individually for, Little Garden, Ennis Lobby, and obviously Dressrosa, respectively. All saying, if it wasn't for you and what you've done, we wouldn't be here, and you are the one who freed us. We want to officially welcome you to Elbaf. And they all raise their friendship, or they all raise their camaraderie cups for the Straw Hat crew. Emperor Luffy. And there is this big massive thing, people are shouting like the crew that took down Kaido and Big Mom. Everyone is laughing, everyone is shouting. And we have a final moment where we see a very large Viking approaching on a mist ship themselves, seeing that the festivities are underway and he's on his way himself to catch up. And before that, we have Hiruden introducing Stanzen specifically to Luffy, saying, oh, you've actually met Stanzen before. And he's like, I wanted to repay my debt from that day. And it is revealed to Luffy that Stanzen was the giant sat next to Rayleigh back in Sabaody, and if it wasn't for Luffy and what he did to Charlos, Stanzen wouldn't have got out. So he's like, look, I owe you. I was the giant court on Sabaody. Call me Stanzen, but if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have broke out that day. I wouldn't have been freed. So it is fate that has brought us back together. And Luffy's like, oh, I'm just glad I could help, really, And then everyone spins around to announce that King, or the Elder Jarul, has arrived, and he is the Mountain Beard Jarul, the oldest being, or the oldest one in the world, at age 408. And everyone celebrates, the elders here. And then Luffy's like, hold up, what's that? And there is a giant sword stuck in Jarul's head. And he's like, Grams, why have you got a sword coming out of your head? And he's like, oh, this old thing? Oh, my helmet saved me, actually. So I'm pretty lucky because, it's actually gone right through. And that's where the chapter ends, on this sort of overwhelming moment of King Jarul having a sword sticking out of his head, both ends. So a pretty big reveal on how the hell is Jarul surviving with a sword impaling his skull. So interested to see what explanation we get there. But nevertheless, what a chapter we had to sort of begin 2025 with. Looking forward to more. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of the chapter as always. I will see you guys next time.